At its January meeting, the Anderson City Council passed 2 of 3 readings to approve annexation on the south side of the city to accommodate the location of asphalt roofing producer Malarkey Roofing Products. A group of concerned citizens opposed to the project have been researching and organizing to state their case. They'll be holding a public meeting this coming Monday, February 5th, at the Paramount Theater in Anderson, with an analytical environmental scientist presenting. We're talking with 2 concerned Madison County residents, Marlene Carey and Jason Webster. Now, many are familiar with Marlene from her many years working publicity for St. Vincent Ascension, formerly St. John's Hospital in Anderson. Welcome to both of you. Marlene, for the benefit of those that may not be up to speed on this issue, why the concern?
Well, I think that there are a number of people in South Madison County as well as throughout Anderson that are expressing concerns about the proposed decision to put Malarkey Roofing Products in the location that it is. This is an asphalt shingle plant. They have locations currently in Oregon, California, and Maryland, and Oklahoma. And they would be coming here to build their factory on 157 acres, and it's in a rural setting. And I'm going to let Jason talk to you about what this area is like.
Yeah, it's actually it's a little hidden gem of Madison County, to be honest. You actually have rolling hills, streams, ponds, wetlands, and all of that is going to be a half mile down the street from this proposed location. And everything kind of runs from that location through all of those things I just described too. So it's a concern of all of ours, just the impact environmentally on the area, and also with that intersection being pitched years ago as the gateway to Anderson and part of the rebirth of Anderson, so to speak. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever to put that there when you could actually start building the citizen base of Anderson with something like housing or something like that. That actually makes sense.
The area that they're planning to build that on is right behind Menards, and it is right next door to Sugar Fork Crossing Assisted Living Facility. And the Sugar Fork Creek runs right beside the property. And so there's a risk because of Sugar Fork being there, the emissions entering the creek and polluting Sugar Fork Creek, as well as it flows into Fall Creek, and then Fall Creek flows into Geist Reservoir.
Not to mention our wells,
Yeah.
are all on well water, so that's another concern.
Right. So that's a concern of ours. We have looked at the permit for the Oklahoma plant because the company has told everyone that this plant is to be like their plant in Oklahoma. And we know that that permit allows them to emit formaldehyde, polycyclic organic matter, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, carbonyl sulfide, and volatile organic compounds and particulate matter. And we've also seen the reports that they have filled out for the EPA, and we know that they're emitting copper and polycyclic aromatic compounds. So we've seen the amounts that they're emitting, and so we know that there are going to be a lot of emissions. There are also supposed to be 100 semis a day that go in and out of that facility. That's what they're projecting. And the semi traffic on its own will bring a lot of pollution into the area.
Last week, 3 members of the Anderson City Council traveled to Oklahoma City to view the plant out there. Upon return, seemed to be in harmony with what they were presented in Oklahoma City, and were somewhat impressed with some positive things that they brought back and positive thoughts. What is your reaction to that?
Well, Rachel Landers and Ollie Dixon both voted no for the annexation at the first council meeting when they had the first 2 readings. And the third reading is supposed to be on February the 8th. Yeah, at 6:30 p.m. So I'm glad that they went. I do know that it was a very short trip. They didn't spend much time there. I have been communicating with one of the council members quite a bit, and I know that they didn't talk to anybody in the community. I think we all know that when we have company coming, we clean up and dress up and put our best foot forward. I think that there are a lot of questions that need to be answered that the company needs to be transparent about. I had given one of the council members several questions to ask, and I know that she did ask some of those, but I do think that there's a lot more that needs to be understood and uncovered. And I mean, this is a really important decision. It affects the health of the community. And as Jason said, it, really affects the future development, reputation, opportunities for visitors. I mean, there's a lot hinging on this particular decision.
Have you spoken to anyone about property values and the impact that it may have on that?
We've spoken with some people about that. Estimates right now are actually one of our neighbors has already looked into selling their home due to this, and they've been told that it's already dropped our property values 11%. And that's if we can sell the properties at this point, should this go forward. And they expect that to go up even more to closer to 25% potentially of property value loss.
Marlene, I know that you have been involved in the Anderson area in business and marketing in a number of different capacities over the past several years. And so obviously you have an affinity for the community, but could this be viewed as I just don't want it in my backyard kind of thing?
Well, that is not really entirely what it is for me. I spent 40 years of my life in healthcare communications and public relations at St. Vincent. And so I was involved not only in trying to help people improve their health, but also the quality of life of the community. I was involved with community affairs and providing sponsorships and being involved with other organizations in improving the quality of life and getting things kicked off. I actually participated in the comprehensive plan development whenever those, were being done. And so I remember sitting in on those meetings. I've looked at the comprehensive plan for the community, and this project does not comply with that comprehensive plan at all. That comprehensive plan talks about the need to develop areas that are already blighted and vacant in a community before looking to build outside the community. It's very clear that they want farmland protected and that they want to protect an area's space and homes. It's very clear that transparency is important, and this process has not been transparent at all. The neighbors around here didn't know about it until they read it in the paper. There was a letter about an informational meeting that was sent out. It was actually, the letter was dated on Christmas Eve, and it went out over the holidays for a meeting on January 4th. And it was only sent to people within 300 feet of the property because that was all they were required legally to do. And so we think that there's an opportunity for the city to be more collaborative and transparent with not just us, but with every project that they do. Whenever they do a developmental project, it affects somebody. Somebody lives next door to whatever they're proposing to put in. The comprehensive plan is very clear that whenever they do projects, that they need to involve the residents that are going to be next to it. They need to collaborate with them. They need to make sure that it is fair and respectful to those people. And so I think there's an opportunity for that. I remember in 2013 when the city of Anderson designated the exit 226 as the gateway to Anderson. And Jason just referred to that. Exit 222 was meant to be for industry. And so exit 226 is supposed to be an area that attracts people that are traveling on I-69, a place for them to go to restaurants and to go to stay in hotels and retail shops. And we have Hoosier Park there. So, I just think that this is a really bad fit for that. It doesn't go along with that kind of a welcoming atmosphere. And it makes me wonder, if they put that there, then what other kinds of businesses are going to want to come and be next to it, or in the same area as an asphalt shingle plant that is emitting harmful chemicals and hurting the environment? And then will that lead to only more industry like that going in around it? And what's that going to do to the impression of those people that are driving by on I-69 or trying to make a decision about making this their home? And also, if they have more restaurants and entertainment venues and retail shops, that will enhance the quality of life for the people who already live here. We need people to come here. A lot of times, people, especially, when I was working at the hospital, there were a lot of people that would commute in from outside the area because they had those amenities in their area and not here. We need to focus on trying to bring those amenities here. That's the perfect place to do it. So I don't want them to have the opportunity cost of putting that plant in that particular area and losing that.
You were saying about this not in my backyard type thing. I really don't want it to be construed as that. This company may not be our favorite company in the world, but I do think that there can be an amicable location that we could live with that makes sense for the city and for everybody here. It can be a win-win for everybody. It just doesn't make any sense the way it's being proposed right now.
I was just going to add too, Brett, that, this is, I think I mentioned earlier that this is right next door to Sugar Fork Crossing Assisted Living Facility. And a lot of the pollutants that are listed in their permit are chemicals that can be very harmful, especially to the elderly. And so I think that that's a real risk to have that concentrated pollution, especially the pollution from the semis that will come in and out of there. That's a very dangerous decision to put that there next to those elderly people.
You were at the January meeting as the council took a vote on this. It takes 3 votes for approval. They have given it 2 readings and voted 7-2 for the first 2 readings to pass it. Mm-hmm. That means there's one more opportunity. If you had the opportunity to speak to the 7 who voted in favor of, what would be your words to those 7 who have voted yes?
Well, first of all, when they initially brought this to the city council, that night economic development was wanting them to pass it in 2 readings. And I'm very grateful Lance Stevenson and other members of the council wanted a 3rd reading. And that, gave us a little bit more time to provide some education. For me, as with everything I've read about the company, I really don't want it anywhere. But I would like for the city council to table the annexation at this point and look at other options for something and work with us as a community, work with all of us who are interested in that decision to come up with something that would be a better plan, that would be better for everybody in the Madison County area.
This coming Thursday is the next city council meeting, but between now and then, there is an event taking place that you want the community to be aware of. Let's talk about that for a moment, if we could.
It's like a town hall or a presentation, and it's going to be on Monday, the 5th at 6:30 p.m. at the Paramount Theater. And there is an analytic environmental chemist from the Muncie area, James Ribercheck, and he is going to be talking about the environmental and health impacts of an asphalt shingle plant like this, and the chemicals that are listed in the permit and the things that we know that they emit. So it's really important for people to understand what the impact would be on all citizens. A lot of the particulate matter and chemicals travel long distances. They affect water. They obviously affect air. And this plant is going to affect traffic greatly. With 100 semis in and out of there every day, That will have an impact on the businesses in the community, particularly down Scatterfield Road and 67th Street.
Myers and Menards customers are going to have a very difficult time once that happens. They have requested from NDOT approval to add 2 access points off of Scatterfield or 109. And I believe that was designated as an area that would not ever have additional access points added to it. And apparently they're considering allowing that for this as well, which will also compound traffic on Scatterfield.
And then they're planning on more rail traffic, which will impact the railroad crossings, particularly on 67th Street and Columbus Avenue. So there is a lot of impact to not just the residents that live out in this area, but to the viability and convenience for businesses.
And this meeting on Monday, February the 5th, it's my understanding that you have extended an invitation to the city council members to attend so that they can have an opportunity to hear what this scientist has to offer.
Yes, we've already reached out to all of the city council members. We have encouraged them to come that evening. We want them to hear the information that we've been hearing about it. We have been consulting 2 environmental specialists and have done a lot of research on the company. We know that the parent company doesn't have a really good environmental record. The Oregon facility that Malarkey owns had a record-breaking fine for violating pollution regulations. They were emitting formaldehyde for more than 10 years. They changed a process in 2009 and apparently didn't discover that there was a problem with it until 2020, which I'm not sure how that happens if you're monitoring your emissions and submitting reports, how you can do that for over a decade. But that's what happened. And so they got a $1.45 million fine for emitting formaldehyde. And then they are owned by a parent company called Holcomb Lafarge that is out of Switzerland. And Holcomb has 887 records of violations that total more than $1 billion since 2000. And then Lafarge, which merged with Holcomb, was fined $778 million for conspiring to provide material support to foreign terrorist organizations. So, we've seen a lot of information in this public record. People can look it up on the internet sources and read about it. I think the concerning thing about the last thing with the foreign terrorist organizations is that neither Holcomb nor Lafarge cooperated in the Department of Justice investigation, nor disclosed it. So we're looking at it not just from the emissions, but also from the record of the company and their compliance with regulations and their integrity. And so that's another thing that makes us have concerns about it.
Is there anything I haven't asked that we need to include in this? Okay.
Right. Yeah, we want to encourage everyone, regardless of what your current opinion is about the plant. We would like to encourage everyone to come and listen to Dr. Rebercheck, to hear what he has to say about the health and environmental effects. I think, Jason and I and all of us out here, we're not we want jobs. We want development that's the right kind of development in our community. We feel like this is not the right location for this plant. And we have questions about this particular company and its emissions.
I actually moved here 3 years ago. I don't have the long history in Anderson like Marlene and Rick do here, and many of our neighbors. I moved here 3 years ago. I'll be honest, I moved from Westfield. I still have that home in Westfield. And as somebody that's not native to Indiana, I moved here in 2005 from Detroit. I've made it home ever since. And again, I came from Hamilton County. I'll be honest, there was a lot of people that wondered why I would choose to live in this area. And as I said earlier, I feel like I found a hidden gem out here. And it's an area that has a lot of potential to have a rebirth and grow again. Again, coming from Detroit, I've seen it personally there, and I've seen how bad it can be when car or auto manufacturers leave areas. And I've also seen what can happen when they get rebuilt. And I feel like Anderson has that potential. It's why I've chosen to be here. And I just feel like people like me that have, made an effort to come here and help this become a better place for everybody. I just feel like it's a slap in the face, and it's essentially, it makes me want to leave, to be honest. And I think there's a lot of people like me that in that scenario, that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, and my husband and I are, really invested in this community, in this area. My husband's grandfather actually, started his home here in the early 1900s, just around the corner from us in this area that Jason's talking about, where there's, ponds and wildlife and the streams and all of the rolling hills and open area and wetlands, protected wetlands. My husband's grandfather won Conservationist of the Year for a lot of the work that he did out here. And so, we want to see this area protected and not spoiled. We think that it's one of the assets for South Madison County and actually Anderson because we're so close to it. And so it's in South Madison Community Schools. It's a great place to live. That it feels very rural, but it's close to conveniences. So it has a lot of opportunity for people to live here. We don't mean any disrespect to any of the people in the city council or in city administration. This is just something that we feel passionately about, that we think that we need to try to educate people about. We know this area really well, and we appreciate that they've been communicating with us, that we've had an opportunity to try to provide some education, and that we're looking forward to being able to continue that.
Thank you, Marlene. Thank you, Jason. And once again, that meeting is this Monday, February 5th at 6:30 in the Paramount Theater in Anderson. It's free and open to everyone. That's this special edition of The Buzz of Madison County. Thank you for listening. That's this edition of The Buzz of Madison County. Thank you for listening. That's this special edition of The Buzz of Madison County.